Rich, welcome to the studio.
Oh, thank you for asking me. This is great.
A little reunion. It's been a while.
Yeah.
Got to play in the sandbox together. Congratulations, Mr. Master of the Craft.
Thank you.
Well, I would love to dig into your entry point into our humble industry. I wish I could have joined you.
Oh boy, yeah.
At your first visit into, tell us about 1956.
I had the ideal experience to come into this world. I was a kid. I was living in Downey, California, right down in the 5 freeway.
I went to Warren High.
You went to Warren High?
That's right.
Me too. Class of 1969.
RTD line 460, direct line to Disneyland.
Yeah. No kidding. Oh, that's wonderful. Did you grow up in Downey, or?
Long story, but moved back to Downey after growing up in Germany.
Oh, okay. That's great. Anyway, so my dad worked for the LA Times. He got some free tickets. I'd heard about Disneyland naturally. I'm like 5 years old. And we get in the car, we drive down the freeway, and we pull into that amazing Black Lake parking lot.
Yep.
You know, and then I see
Black Lake, I love it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and the Mickey Mouse Club was going. I was a fanatic viewer of the Mickey Mouse Club. And so there's Mickey's face in flowers, you know, and the closer you walk, the more vivid it is, you know. And so it's like we buy our tickets, and then we walk through that portal onto Main Street. And all I can say is, whatever Disney was trying to do, it worked perfectly for me. I left the real world, and suddenly I was in this world, this beautiful, perfect world. And the thing that I'd never forgotten that is with me even today is that I quickly realized that I was the hero of the adventure. You know, I wasn't watching Peter Pan fly over Neverland. I was flying over Neverland. You know, I got into a car in Autopia and was able to drive it myself. I was flying on Dumbo's back, you know, everywhere. Like Tom Sawyer's Island.
Right.
Like, you know, it's like hiding places. And
the trees are attacking you in Snow White.
Yeah. Everywhere we went, there was some kind of peak experience. Mm-hmm. I was almost drunk with joy when I left there. I just knew it's like, and I was also sad.
Yeah, I remember looking at the train station.
Yeah. I was when you see the Main Street Emporium, it's like, oh no, I'm about to leave. No, please. And anyway, so
I can relate.
My parents had a policy where we get to go there once a year. And because of that, I actually thought you can only go to Disneyland once a year. Like, wait a minute, when I got to be a teenager, right, you can go anytime you want?
Yeah.
It's amazing. But anyway, so every year it'd be like,
yeah,
just
what a blessing, yeah.
Yeah, and so there'd be that day coming up, and I wouldn't be able to sleep the night before. And then we'd go there. And, you know, boy, I can remember when they opened the Matterhorn. Mm-hmm. I can remember when they opened the submarine ride. I can remember I think they opened the submarine ride and the Flying Saucer.
You kind of grew up with the park.
I did.
Right,
Every year there was a new thing to experience.
And that 10 years of Walt being alive, that first 10 years.
Yeah, and then ending with, Pirates of the Caribbean, which was like, wow, you know. Anyway, it was just, the idea that I would ever work there never occurred to me, you know. I thought, I could never even aspire to work there. The people who did this are just way beyond my, expertise. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, I mean, at what point did you kind of choose an area of study and kind of a discipline to dive into?
Well, I was always interested in storytelling. I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I went to UCSB, and I was an English major, but...
Got to brag on my youngest daughter, just got into UCSB's.
Really? Oh, boy.
She was excited.
The great thing about the UCSB, and this is sort of my life story, is that academically, I did really well, but I wasn't that interested in the classes. But they had a radio station and a newspaper, and neither of which you got credit for. And I practically lived, I was the arts editor of the newspaper after one quarter. Yeah. And I, had a show at the radio station. I loved this comedy group called the Firesign Theater. So I got 3 other guys, and we used to do an improv hour-long comedy thing on KCSB. And that was my college career, And then I get out of college, don't know what I'm going to do. And I got a call from a guy who said, we've taken over this like automated country western radio station, worst possible format for Santa Barbara, and we're turning it into a freeform FM radio station. And we know about your comedy group. We want you to come on and do, like, we're going to give you an hour and you can keep doing the show. So we did that. And then the morning guy walked out one day, and there was a guy in the comedy group named Mark Ward, and he said, "Do you want to be our morning team?" So I said, "Okay, great." So we became the morning team on KTYD,
wow.
the Mighty Fine 99. And that was an amazing experience because, like, the ability to just get on the air and try to make people laugh and having to come up with stuff, doing live banter on the air. We had the big feature on our radio station, on our radio show, was a thing called the Nude News, where we pretended to be like nudist broadcasters, and it was essentially the Daily Show. We just funny stuff. So that was, and this actually plays into, believe it or not, this actually plays into how I got into Imagineering. Let me tell you that story. Okay. You'll appreciate this. So this shows you, for any young person who's watching, like, you never can tell what fate is going to deliver to you. Okay. So cut to, this was 1977, cut to 1988. For the last 8 years, I've been a writer-producer of comedy radio commercials, which was actually a profession back in the 1980s. We did the original Bud Light campaign, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, but I'm trying to get into the movie business as a screenwriter and having no success at all. So this producer named John Etcherian used to have a networking event at the Rain Check Room, which was a dive bar on Santa Monica Boulevard, where a bunch of people would get together and just meet each other and see if there's something that happen. So I'm at this, in the Rain Check Room, having a Dos Equis, and I get this tap on my shoulder. I turn around. It's a woman I've never seen before. She says to me, I don't know who you are, but I recognize your voice. Why would that be? So I looked at her and I thought, okay, yeah, it's just, I said, did you live in Santa Barbara in the late 70s? And she goes, oh my God, you're Rich Procter. Procter and Ward. I can't believe it, So this is Mel McGowan.
Wow.
And yeah, so we talk, and
she talks. Joe Rody. Wow.
Yeah, she talks about listening to me, and she says, I don't know if you're interested in this, but my husband worked for Walt Disney Imagineering, and they're working on this project, and they're having a lot of trouble. It's a new kind of project. It's kind of an interactive theatrical thing with a lot of comedy in it, and they can't find anybody to be able to figure out how it works, and especially how the comedy part works. Would that interest you at all? So my brain explodes.
Wow.
Okay, how do I not appear hysterical here? And I go, oh yeah, I'd be interested in that. Yeah, sure, That's how
Adventurers Club.
Yeah, that was,
wow.
So that's how I got on the Adventurers Club, yeah.
Joe Rody's first kind of big assignment.
Yeah.
Do his own thing.
And
kind of experimental anchor to an experimental destination within Pleasure Island for Rick Procter.
Oh God, there were so many magical, enchanting elements in that.
Chris Carradine, Rick, just legends.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But here's the thing. They had a problem with the Adventurers Club that nobody else in the world would have, which is they knew they were going to get a lot of people coming in, but it's a bar. How do you move them through the place?
Throughput.
Their problem wasn't how do we attract people.
Yeah.
It was how do we get them to leave?
Because I'd live in, I just move in upstairs. I wouldn't leave.
Who wouldn't want to sit there for 3 hours?
Right.
There's probably 2 hours worth of stuff to do there.
Yeah.
So I looked at the layout and I looked at everything, and I said they had a next to the main room there was a little theater type space that they weren't sure how they were going to use. So I said to Rick, here's what we're going to do. I said, get people in, serve them a drink, and the waiters and bartenders were actors. So I said, after 45 minutes, somebody comes through that door at that theater and says, you people are so lucky because tonight is the night of the annual Adventure of the Year Awards. So we're going to have a competition in here. There are going to be 3 adventures going to come out, and you get to select which one is the Adventures of the Year. So if you'll come in here now, I'm going to leave here. We're going to go into the space, and then everybody. So there was a 20-minute show, and which I wrote, which was these 3 people with the most outlandish, crazy, surreal, Monty Python-esque kind of tales. And then the audience would get to vote. Then they would sing the Adventure of the Year song.
Grand finale.
Yeah. And they're all in the street again.
Yeah.
And so that was,
Still loved, still missed.
Oh man. That was, and it was all Joe,
Yeah.
And the whole thing with the faces appearing in the mirrors and the seats that went up and down, and
What a great Act 1 for him.
yeah. Oh yeah. It was the true definition of Disney magic, and it was like there's nothing else like it in the world.
Yeah.
Nobody else would do this but Disney. So
still missed, still loved.
Yeah.
But Forbidden Disney, that's a whole other level of
that's true. Now,
missed and loved in the Comedy Warehouse. We got to talk about this.
Okay. This one is really unknown, even to hardcore Disney fans, I think, which is
Such a travesty that you can't go on YouTube and find this. Art and vids, please.
So across from the Adventurers Club was a thing called the Comedy Warehouse. And Disney's plan for that was they were going to do a 50-minute original musical comedy about a family who comes to Walt Disney World and on vacation. And it's going to have songs and blah, blah, blah. So after I kind of wrapped the shows for the Adventurers Club, the guy who was in charge of that project came over and said, we're having a little bit of trouble with this, and we need you to what we need is you to be a script doctor here. Better jokes or something. Because Michael Eisner was coming down to Florida every 2 weeks to look in on the Disney MGM studios, and he was not happy with what was going on. So I come in and we try to fix it, and it just sits there. And finally, Michael Eisner, with like 3 weeks to go before opening, Michael Eisner sees it again and says to Rick Rothschild, either fix it or take it out. I don't want to see that again. So Rothschild says to me, it's now Friday. On Monday, I want to see something totally different. Okay, so I say to Tom Schroman, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to get a big cup of Starbucks coffee on Saturday. We're going to get rid of all the musical comedy crap, and we're going to do Laugh-In. It's going to be a nonstop cascade of jokes kidding Disney. So we did that. We tore it apart. We took all the best jokes. We wrote about 10 or 15 or 20 new jokes. We put them in. So it was just like endless. It was just like bang, 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 bang. So we do that on Monday night, and it kills. People just love it, And so,
What was the marching orders for Michael Eisner?
Michael Eisner said to me, as when he saw it, he goes, okay, this is great. He said, I want you to push the envelope here, and I want you to do a show that if anybody else did it, we'd sue them. So
that's some pretty solid credit.
Yeah, that was,
gotta give him credit for that.
There was a couple of operators there with him, and they were kind of looking at him and going, okay, well, So, but anyway, so the show opened. Kevin Rafferty wrote us an opening number for the show, which is. So the show opens with this couple, and the guy's going, God, this is so great. Oh my God, this is my dream come true. And the wife says, it's just the parking lot. We're not even in the park yet. So they come into the park, and then 3 park employees come out and sing a song called Super Conscientious Friendly Disney World Employees. That we completely got.
Which tune, I imagine.
Yeah. I mean, the great thing was we were able to respond to news events, because that was the year that Alan Carr produced the Oscars, and he had that whole thing with Rob Lowe dancing with Snow White.
Yeah.
So we put into the show at the ending. And so there's this nonstop thing, and then suddenly this guy in a suit comes out, and he kind of looks at the audience, scrutinizes them, walks around kind of looking, and he says, Chim chimney, chim chimney, chim chim cheree. If you mess with Disney, you'll answer to me. Chim chimney, chim chimney, chim chim cheroo. That Disney something we love to sue.
The lawyer.
Yeah, the lawyer. He was a Disney lawyer. Yeah. And so anyway, so that worked. Now, Imagineering was trying to poach on operations a little bit by saying we want to get in the live entertainment thing.
Yeah.
So Imagineering had a contract where the show had to run for 6 months. And it ran for 6 months to the day. And it was selling out 6 times a night. And it got pulled the day that that contract ended. And then they put in stand-ups and improv.
Wow.
Something anybody could do.
Little General Nunes turf wars there.
Yeah. I mean, can you imagine a show called Forbidden Disney that they could bring back to Anaheim and put in anywhere?
Yeah, all the cast members.
It was like Forbidden Broadway about Disney, I mean, it was, oh man, well. So anyway.
Still a no-brainer. Well, I mean, working with Epcot legends, Epcot Imagineers, Bob, Tony Baxter, Rick. Yeah. I mean, what would ever make you leave to go? Did Bob just steal you away?
No, well, no, not not exactly. What I discovered in Imagineering was that there was an artist named Guy Vasilovich who I got to be friends with. First week I'm there, he tells me, he said, this is at the exact same time the warmest and coldest place you'll ever work. And boy, in terms of creative people, there is nothing like it on the planet. Yeah, I was meeting people, their credentials were just amazing, but then there's this whole political structure, and there's so few projects, and they're so expensive that everybody is wants to get their people on and other people off. And since I'd worked on Pleasure Island, which was perceived by the company as being a giant failure, I was sort of shoved aside a little bit, and I realized at a certain point, I was part of a project where I got a green light from a sponsor, and then I was sidelined by a big shot who didn't want that to be done. And I said, I could be here another 15 years and never get another thing done. And that's not what I wanted for my life. So I left, and then I started working, for Bob Rogers as a freelancer. And then, in the 90s, I had 2 things going. I was working as a freelancer in themed entertainment, and I was also producing shows for companies that fed cable television things. I worked for 3 years on Amazing America for Discovery, things like that. And then finally in 2003, BRC created a position of a full-time writer. That was during the Abraham Lincoln Presidential Library, which I worked on.
I love.
Yeah, man, that was my favorite thing I ever did at BRC, and
so great.
It's so wonderful, and the thing I liked about it was that BRC respected none of the protocols of how to do a museum like that. They said, we are going to do something different. And the people who were financing it said, we want an attraction for the city of Springfield. We want people from St. Louis and Chicago to come here. And, we wanted to drive tourism.
Right.
We want to create a six block enterprise zone around this with the restaurants and hotels. I mean, they knew what they wanted. And
not going through the motions of another presidential library.
This was not going to be stuff in glass cases. This was not going to be an Encyclopedia Britannica article about Abraham Lincoln. This was going to be a thing where people had an emotional experience of Lincoln's life that would turn them into Lincoln aficionados. And I really got a master course in the Bob Rogers technique of storytelling, which is you find a theme, and then tell that story, and everything falls out of the theme. In this case, the theme was Lincoln as Job. I don't know if you know the story of biblical Job. He's a good man, righteous man. God makes a bet with Satan. Satan says he's not really righteous. If you take away all the boons of his life, he'll turn against you. And, eventually, of course, Job shakes his fist to God and says, why are you doing this to me? Don't you have a plan for me? God says, yes, I have a plan, but it's not for you to know what it is. The light bulb goes on, and, so the story of Lincoln, we told, Lincoln, good man, rises up, gets elected president, and then what happens is a cascade of the worst things that have ever happened to any president in history. Civil War, wife has a nervous breakdown, child dies in the White House, and he, his faith is tested, but he never shakes his fist at God. He just keeps going, keeps doing the right thing. So, and we created two journeys, the journey to the White House and then the journey in the White House. And people walk through it and they experience what he experienced. They see the thing from his point of view. The most effective thing in the museum, I think, is the first, you walk through Lincoln's cabin, but then you walk out and you see a large painting of a slave auction. And this is what Lincoln saw when he was, in his 20s. And you cannot, it's like the whole drama of his life is in that painting. And as you walk through the experience, you can see Lincoln processing it and trying to figure out the right thing to do and what's possible or whatever. And so, you have to do a feasibility report when you do one of these things. And the feasibility report came back and said, you can't build it for any more than 300,000 people a year because no presidential library has ever gotten more than 300,000 people in a year. First year, 600,000 people.
Wow.
And it's consistently above 300,000 still.
Wow.
So that was
double.
Yeah. So that was
impressive.
Anyway, it just
any of those big themes, because that's such an extreme swing from comedy to real life pathos. Any of those, I'm thinking like the Sandbox, it was the Museum of the Bible, nailing that, finding that thread,
Yeah, well, the key, the important thing to know, and it took me a while to figure this out, is I thought theme, okay, well, you got to invent a theme, but you don't have to invent a theme. What you have to do is discover the theme that's actually there. And you have to work the theme until you get, what it is. The Lincoln as Job thing wasn't something we made up. It was something we thought about deeply. The trap of working on the Lincoln Museum was that as the world's most interesting person, you can tell his story 10,000 different ways, which is why there are more books about Lincoln than anybody else in the world except Jesus and Shakespeare. And that's why everybody's got a different take, everybody's got a different angle. So when we found that as a way in to going back to Walt Disney, making the guest the hero of the adventure, going through it, putting them at the center of the adventure, then we knew we had something good. So, yeah.
Boy, I can't wait to go through the wink and blink and Walt with you and second guess the creative team at Imagineering on their decisions. Pick which Walt.
I'm fast. I'm kind of like going, I kind of want to see that, and I'm afraid of seeing it. We'll see, that'd be a tough one.
Well, on your journeys with Bob and Christian and all the great folks with your team at BRC, any favorite kind of stops in your global journeys over the last few decades?
Well, boy, I had so many. We did a ton of work for the Grand Ole Opry, and here's kind of a favorite. This is when this happened, I kind of realized, hey, I'm pretty good at this. So we go to the Grand Ole Opry because the Grand Ole Opry wants to build a museum, which they later decided not to do. But while we're there, this is at the big Grand Ole Opry Auditorium, just outside of Nashville. They say to us, we've got a tour here and it's underperforming and we can't figure out why. So would you go through it and then just give us an opinion of what you think? So the tour was, at that point, people arrive, they bring out a television set, you know, that people then watch a 12-minute movie about the history of the Grand Ole Opry, which is the buildings they've been in. You know, they were in the War Memorial Auditorium, Ryman Auditorium, then they're coming into this new place. Then they walk into the auditorium. Here's where we do the show. Okay, great. Then we walk out the back. We walk into the green room. Here's where the performers gather. Then we walk past the dressing rooms, and then we're out the back door, and that's the tour. And so after we do that, we go back and see the person in charge. And she says, okay, why don't you just go home and figure out, and I say, we don't need to go home. We can tell you exactly what's wrong with this. Okay, first thing is they come in. Even if you keep the TV set, the first thing that happens is you get the biggest star of the Grand Ole Opry you can get. And that person says, thank you for being here. Country music fans are the greatest fans in the world. And we couldn't do what we do if you didn't come here and enjoy our wonderful music. And we are so happy you've come here. And we want you to have a unique experience of this place because we built this place for you. Great. Okay, so now they're, oh, all right. So now we don't go into the auditorium, you walk in the back, and the tour guide says some version of, I want you to think of yourself as being a country music performer who has spent 20 years on the road honing their craft. And all they've dreamed of since they were 10 years old when they first heard the show was being on the Grand Ole Opry stage. I want you to think of what it feels like to be that person when you take this adventure. So then we walk in, and there's the star dressing room. So can you imagine coming in here? There's Porter Wagner's dressing room. There's Dolly Parton's dressing room. Here's where Johnny Cash, telling stories of this. You're this performer. This is like an incredible fantasy dream. Okay, so now we get into the green room. This is an important stop because every Grand Ole Opry show has a legend, a superstar, and a newcomer. And you say, this is the green room. This is where the culture of country music is communicated. This is the only place where it's guaranteed where all three of these generations are going to meet and share things and understand each other. This is the past, present, and future of country music happens where you're standing right now. Okay? Now we walk out of there and then we go to the door of the stage, but we don't go into the door. We stop and say, this is what you've been dreaming of your whole life. Being on this stage, when you go on that stage, you know that your music is not only going out to 4,400 people in those seats, it's going out to the world over WSM. Okay? Now we walk on the stage. And now,
context.
Well, it's storytelling.
Yeah.
But it's storytelling acknowledging
You're the hero.
that people have fantasies about being a country western star. Mm-hmm. So, like
deliver.
Let them enjoy those,
That's great.
So I was with Brad Sheldon and we just improvised this whole thing. And
good.
Their ticket sales went up like 80%.
Imagine.
This is something that we couldn't even charge for it, It's just getting the host to tell their story. Now we ended up, because the tour is so successful, BRC ended up building an $8 million facility there, where it's a place where the first act story, the story about the three generations of country music meeting in the green room. Mm-hmm. Trisha Yearwood and Garth Brooks now tell that story.
Nice.
And it's also acknowledged, So anyway, that's an example of sort of what I've learned over the years about how to do things. This all comes from a story that Bob Rogers tells, his story about how he figured out what he's doing, which is that his first job at Disneyland was working as he worked behind the counter at the magic shop. Mm-hmm. Okay, and he was a musician, so he started out and doing magic tricks for people and trying to sell them, but it wasn't working. And one of his the fellow salesmen said to him, look, it's not about your skill as a magician. They're coming in because they want to be the center of attention at the party. So the point of selling the magic trick isn't your skill. The point of them is for you to communicate to them that if they buy this trick, they are going to be very popular. So in other words, yes, oh, I see, it's about the guest. It's about putting the guest at the center of the adventure. I think everything Bob has done in his amazing life and everything BRC does, it all comes from that same source.
Yeah.
That's where it started.
Wow.
And so anyway.
Wow. Any favorite kids of the brew of the projects you've done over the years?
Well, okay. Here's one. Well, there's so many.
I know. Brutal, huh?
Yeah, oh, yeah, it is. We did. I don't know if you know this, but we did something for the Milwaukee Brewers. Do you know about this?
No, I haven't seen that one.
Okay. So the Brewers come to us. I'm a huge baseball fan. Always have been. And the Brewers want to do a tribute to Bud Selig. I don't know if you know who he is. Mm-hmm. Bud Selig was the owner of the Brewers, who was also the commissioner of baseball for a while. Now, he was about to retire. And they said, we want to do a little presentation, a little show for him, a tribute to him. So this is a little tricky because Selig, as a commissioner, is the guy who canceled the 1994 baseball season. And he's always been known as the owner's guy. And, you know, the Brewers fans like him, but it was just, you know, how do we make this guy, how do we take fans who come in and kind of go, okay, Bud Selig, they're a little skeptical. And when they walk out the back end of the attraction, they go, thank God for Bud Selig. God bless Bud Selig.
You're going to redeem his reputation.
Yes. Yeah. Well, we're going to reveal it in a way, and we're going to contextualize it in a new way and reveal it in a way that makes them, you know, like be grateful to him.
Sure.
So, this was my baby, I got to say. Fans walk in, so they walk into this theater. First of all, we had a big plus in the fact that our narrator is Bob Uecker, who was the announcer for the Brewers and beloved by every Brewers fan. So they come to this theater, they sit down. The first thing they see isn't Bud Selig. The first thing they see is themselves. We see fans. And Uecker says, is there anything better than coming to Miller Park on a warm summer evening with your family and watching the Brewers play and sharing your love of baseball with your kids, knowing they're going to share it with their kids? You know, we're seeing fans catching foul balls or whatever, you know. Well, one of the reasons you're in this beautiful ballpark is because of Bud Selig. And now we see Bud Selig. And Bud Selig says, boy, I can remember the first time I ever went to a baseball game. Brewers were a minor league team. My mom brings me into the park. I see that amazing green field. I smell the hot dogs. Mm-hmm. I sit down and I was just hooked from the first moment. So, we love fans. Bud's a fan. Bud's like you.
Yep.
You know. And then he tells the story of like the the Braves moved to Milwaukee in 1953. And Selig's going, oh God, this was the greatest moment of my life. What a team. Eddie Matthews, Hank Aaron, you know.
Yeah.
We see the Braves win the 57, you know, Aaron hits a walk-off home run in the last day of the 57 season. We see that. We see the fans going wild, you know. All those great, and so he talks about his love of that. And then quickly we get to sort of the first crisis, which is then people buy the team and move it to Atlanta. So people in Milwaukee think, baseball never coming back to Atlanta, small market team. But by God, Bud Selig said, this will not stand. Bud Selig says, we're going to bring baseball back to Milwaukee. And he ends up buying the Seattle Pilots with 8 days before the 1971 season, I think, and turns them into the Milwaukee Brewers. So now we have more ecstasy. We see that great 81 team, Harvey's Wallbangers. They almost win the World Series, you know. Then we have our next crisis, which is that baseball says to the Brewers, you know, this park is getting pretty old. Unless you build a new park, then we're going to have to move the team. Well, once again, Bud says, I'm going to move heaven and earth to do this. There's this great moment where the legislature, they're voting 16 to 15 not to fund it, and then he gets to flip one vote at 3 o'clock in the morning. They get the funding, half-cent sales tax, and then Euchre's going, that's then we see Bud saying, I'm doing this because I want you to be able to share baseball with your family the way my mother shared it with me. That's the whole thing.
Personal circular connection.
So when people come out, they are literally weeping.
Yeah, that's good.
So I think this is a good use of what mine went on.
So good.
Yeah. So.
Well, what would you say for incoming generation of creators, show writers that want to enter into this wild, wacky, wonderful industry of ours, as opposed to film and television? And
I would say that the power of storytelling to transform lives, the power of storytelling to enrich people's lives, is something that I didn't discover until I was in my 30s. And it's like opening a wonderful Pandora's box. It's like opening up it's like George Bailey discovering the fact that he had this positive influence on all these people, and I saw my life in a whole different way when I started to learn this craft. So I would say, I guess what I usually tell young people is, when you love a story, take it apart. Find out why you love it. What is it about that story? What you'll discover is all of the stories that you love all have the same elements. The hero's journey is a real thing. Mm-hmm. George Bailey goes on it. Luke Skywalker goes on it. All the films you tend to love, it's the same thing, but it's always created in a new way. And if you can find a way to take people on one of those kind of journeys, it is so, I would say it's all about standing outside the exit of an attraction the day it opens and watching people come out. Mm-hmm. We just did an attraction, BRC did an attraction for Osaka, in Osaka, Japan, USA Pavilion. And we've got, we have had people taking pictures. People are coming out beaming, they're coming out, they're kind of like, awe is the wrong word, but they've been awed, and they're changed. Mm-hmm. They're happy. And figure out a way to do that, because that'll make you really happy. And you'll get to work with the most amazing creative people in the world.
Absolutely. Well, thanks, Rich. You're speaking my love language.
Oh, God.
I appreciate it.
You're one of the guys, and I know us. It's true. We get to be it's like,
I can't believe we get to do this.
How did I remember Hunter Thompson once said he got cashiered out of the Air Force, and then he got a job as a sports writer. He said, I feel like I've fallen down an elevator shaft into a pool full of mermaids.
That's a good one.
That was what I feel like when I found this job. It's like, somehow there was a perfect job, and I managed to luck my way into it. How did that happen?
I know the feeling. Well, Congratulations.
Oh, thank you. So
I'll quit hogging you. Open up to the rest of the questions.
Okay. Yes,
Thanks, Rich.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hey, that was fun. Who was that?
Yeah, and since we chatted, I've just got back from Osaka, and I literally am just around the corner from the Grand Ole Opry. So following the tracks of our conversations.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, great. So you saw the U.S. Pavilion?
I kind of snuck in by my chinny chin chin. So it was not an easy task, but well worth the effort for sure. So kudos to you, Christian, Bob.
Yeah, Christian Lachelle led that effort and really killed it, I thought.
Absolutely. Yeah. And anyways, great job. And welcome to everyone that's joined. I've got some really great questions queuing up. So I just want to dig into them so we get to as many of them
as possible while we've got you on this
Sure,
Friday
sure,
afternoon.
great. I'm ready to go.
Awesome. Well, I think we've got probably an unhealthy fixation on the Adventurers Club, so we may just hang out
Oh, that'd be
all
okay with
night.
me. I could, yeah, yeah. Although Joe
So,
Rohde's the guy you really want to talk to about that, but
so yeah, a couple of, I mean, around C. McNair Wilson. First
oh,
question: if the Adventurers Club were to be brought back, is there any changes you would make? What would you keep?
oh boy, something I would be just I don't I think the Adventures Club is an evergreen. The beauty of it is that the reason people love it so much is it lives in the imagination of everybody who went through it. And the thing that's great about it that makes it, if you just were able to plop it down in Anaheim or Orlando again, uh, it does the thing that you want most from a themed attraction, which is the minute you walk into the door, you leave the ordinary world and suddenly you're in this magical environment. And Joe found 100 ways to enchant you, and including ones, one of the best things about that, including all the ways that you saw things out of the corner of your eye, and you saw the face appear in the mirror, and you go, "What? No, wait a minute, wait a minute. Are those stools actually moving up and down?" And so I'd be thrilled if somebody would just bring it back, the way. Unfortunately, Susie Cowan and Joe dressed the place by looting the 20th Century Fox prop department when they were selling off all their props. So the chance of, it would be tough to be able to recreate that in the same way.
You don't think we'd find quite the booty at Six Flags America in Maryland once that closes?
No, I think you might have to go to about 150 Ren fairs, in order to find all the kind of stuff there.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where I look back at my life and I think, boy, how did I luck into doing the most amazing thing, the very first thing I ever did? It kind of like set the bar pretty high for. I knew something that was very special, but now I look back and I go, wow, man, I just lucked out.
Yeah, and Susie's on the line, and she mentioned the Rose Bowl swap meet where I was just there this weekend as well. So that would be
Okay, yeah, yeah,
treasure trove. But we're giving
yeah,
all our
yeah.
secrets away here. I'm
Well,
only
she,
shocked that it's not at the on one of the cruise lines yet.
well,
'Cause
no
that really is
kidding.
kind
Yeah.
of a
Well, once
no-brainer.
again, it's because it existed, and then it's not forgotten. Certainly not forgotten by fans. But it's not as
Absolutely.
celebrated as it should be. If it had been in a park that, I hate to say this, but in a park that had been wholly successful, it would have been one of those things. It would be in Shanghai. It would be in Hong Kong. It would be everywhere. You know, it,
Absolutely.
it's a signature Disney thing.
Well, Andrew's got a great question. Asked, have you noticed your writing process evolve? What do you do differently now versus your earlier projects?
Well, certainly I'm smarter. There's like, in other words, having worked on all these projects, I know now how to make how to not make a lot of dumb mistakes. Like the thing I do now is, and if we're working on stuff, like even with BRC and freelancing things, is figure out the theme, figure out what is the thing that makes it go, because that's the hardest thing to do, and it's the thing that makes it all work and makes it all hang together. When I see something that doesn't work, when I see something that's just a random bunch of stuff, I think, okay, they didn't figure out the theme. When I always give a little talk about themes sometimes when I do a project, and I always say, a theme doesn't have to be a huge original statement. There's a franchise of feature films that has made like over $2 billion. There's at least four of them now, and they all have the same exact theme, and the theme is a cliche. And I ask them, okay, the franchise is Jurassic Park, and the theme is don't mess with Mother Nature. If you look at all those films, they're the same film. The people who mess with Mother Nature all get stomped on or eaten. the people who, like work with Mother Nature. Now, that shows you a couple of things. First of all, the theme can be simple. Second of all, that's a story people want to hear because they keep going back and seeing it again and again. You know, the integrity of nature, the ability to want to preserve the world in a way that can't that humans manipulating nature is inherently a dangerous thing, and people want to keep experiencing that story. So, I spent a lot of time at the beginning thinking of a theme, and then the most important thing is, how do I make this 100% about the guest? If we're doing a brand home, we want to celebrate the brand, certainly, but it's really about celebrating the guests who love the brand and every step of the way. So that's, those are two things that I know how to do now that it doesn't send me in a wrong direction.
Yeah, thanks for sharing the wisdom there. That is some great, solid advice. Here's one for those that are interested in kind of the politics and machinations at the C-suite of Disney. You've experienced the tail end of Michael Eisner's hands-on filmmaker-driven leadership style and watched the company evolve under Bob Iger's more brand-driven, IP-driven approach. How did those leadership philosophies influence the culture of Imagineering and the freedom that writers have had to experiment, would you say? Kind of that shift from a direct hands-on creative to kind of more of a house of brands.
I'm not quite sure how to answer that question, but I will say this. Iger saved Disney. I worked on the development process for the original California Adventure, and I was not happy with what I saw, and Eisner has the singular achievement of actually creating an unsuccessful Disney theme park, which I thought was impossible. But, he did it. I don't want to go on about that. But Iger went in and he said, okay, we're going to spend $1.6 billion in order to make this new. Bob Rogers used to have a saying, he said, no Broadway show opens twice, meaning get all the goodness into phase one because there's no such thing as phase two. Robert Iger proved that to be false. California Adventure, he saved it. And he was willing to give Imagineering the tools and the money they needed in order to create a magical place where there was not one. So I am wholly in the Iger camp in terms of the philosophy of the leader. I don't know if that answers the question, but
yeah, that's great. Yeah, it really was that swing, I guess, from shooting for the moon, kind of post Disney Paris and kind of the financial woes.
Yeah. It's I used to have a sign up on my desk. I'm substituting the word stuff for what it actually said, but the sign said stuff costs money.
Really?
Clients, it's and smart clients understand that, and they factor that in.
Well, back to your advice regarding kind of clarifying the theme and sticking with it. Many of your projects revolve around themes of human dignity, hope, connection. Why do those themes matter so much to you personally?
Well, we once did a charrette for a project for the Ravinia Music Festival, and the head of the festival wanted to build something that would cause young people to be interested in classical music. The donors to the festival were aging out, and the younger people didn't care about the Chicago Symphony Orchestra. And they said, we need something that connects, where young people can walk in here and they realize classical music isn't classical music. Classical music is great music that happens to be from a certain period. So we did the whole, you'll appreciate this. We got into the charrette. We spent the entire first day trying to come up with a theme. And we came up with one of the best themes I've ever heard. It could probably be used in just about every project we ever do. It's one word. The word was connect. That's what everything is about. people go to these experiences thinking they want to be entertained. What they really want to do is connect with people, because that's what everything is about. You know, when you see a great movie, it's about people connecting with each other. You know, rom-coms are about people falling in love, which is the ultimate form of connection. A lot of Marvel films are about heroes who may have been alienated in a previous life, who connect with other people who are probably alienated themselves, find a common bond, and then save themselves by fighting for a better world. And so as much as possible, every single project can have the theme connect.
Couldn't agree with you more. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a broken world, and the
It
more you can
is. It is.
restore
And
those broken
one of
connections.
the reasons it's broken is because so much of the heart and soul of the media is about trying to disconnect people.
Right.
It's like the easiest
Isolation,
emotion. I used to be in
division.
TV news. The
Yeah,
easiest emotion to evoke is fear and hatred.
right.
Those are lizard brain emotions. So
Mhm.
naturally, news places go right there because they want to keep you. They want to keep watching. So going to a theme park, as I always say, everybody, this is kind of a cliche now, but it's where like red and blue come together. Those are purple places. And the purple is the color of connection. It's like you stop thinking about somebody as your enemy and you start thinking, hey, this person likes this roller coaster just as much as I do. You know, when people walk out of Osaka, they've connected with something. They've connected with America in a way that, God bless Christian and the BRC for doing that, because that's something that really, really needs to happen right now.
Really powerful.
Yeah.
And I definitely was able to experience that.
Oh, that's
It was
great.
really
Yeah.
fun to just to have this diverse crowd just celebrate kind
Yeah,
of in the way
there's a
that they did.
feeling
Yeah.
of warmth when you walk out of that. You feel like you feel better about yourself. That's the number one thing I think for any themed entertainment project is, does this project make people walk out feeling better about themselves? Like in the Lincoln Project, when people go through it, the whole point of it was to say Lincoln is the uncommon common man. What he did, he's not some guy on a pedestal. We took him off the pedestal and he say, what he did, you can do. He was just a guy trying to find his way. He happened to make the right choice. You can make those same choices and you can do things even greater.
Wonderful. Kind of related, someone wrote or asked, writing for location-based experiences seems fundamentally different from screenwriting or writing advertising copy. What are some unique challenges of writing for three-dimensional experiences and
Oh,
spaces?
that's a great question, because the answer is a lot of storytelling is context. So when you're doing a location-based piece of entertainment, when you're working on a movie or a TV show, you're having to appeal to the great everywhere. It's like, but when you're doing, the key when you go in and do a location-based entertainment piece is you get to answer the question, why this place? Why now? Why here? What is the meaning of this place? One of the great, advantages clients have when they build something is, one of the hardest things these days is to achieve is scarcity. You have to come here because it's the only one of its kind. You know,
Mhm.
the Lincoln Museum had to be in Springfield, Illinois, because that's where Lincoln was from. That's where he became a lawyer. And it's also the state capital of Illinois. So you have come here because we have the unique ability to tell the Lincoln story. And so what makes location based entertainment unique is you get the advantage of being able to own the place and say, you should come here because it's the only one of the kind. Like the Bud Selig thing could only happen at the Miller Park in Milwaukee. They own that story, and that story belongs there because he built the park. So you walk out of there thinking, this wasn't the Bud Selig story that I could go on YouTube and see about Bud Selig. This is a story that lives here. And when I go there, I need to experience it again because it makes me realize what a special place this is.
Love it. Yeah, rooted soil specific storytelling.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And really,
Brings
really
scarcity.
take that seriously.
Love it.
Yeah.
Someone's asking how your comedy background shaped your approach to immersive storytelling beyond just opening that first door with Mel.
Well, one of my favorite phrases is there's a psychologist named Sheldon Kopp who said, "Laughter is the sound of freedom." And
Amen. Love
nothing,
it.
yes, nothing unites people more than laughter. It's like
Mhm.
when I was a disc jockey and part of the two-man morning comedy radio team at Procter and Ward on KTYD. Uh, when we had a good morning, we would make jokes, and then I'd go out and have lunch at some cafe, and people would come up to me and say, "Tell me that joke again," So I connected with them, and I connected, like thousands of people in Santa Barbara all hearing that same joke at the same time and all laughing, and they felt connected to me, and they felt connected to each other, you
Mhm.
know. So comedy is just a form of storytelling. But a good laugh is like it's like has a Zen quality because it breaks your mind. It
Mhm.
goes to a place where your mind wasn't expecting it to go, and then it's the ability to do that in any attraction is good. Not to put in laughs where they're not necessary, but the ability
Sure.
to be surprising. The ability to, Billy Wilder, the great filmmaker, said that I did the best possible film is something that's surprising and logical. So you go, and a great film is that's a moment where you go, oh yes, of course that had to happen,
Mhm.
and yet it's completely surprising. And that's what a good joke is too, or whatever.
Love it.
Yeah,
Well, this kind of is related. As themed entertainment is increasingly global, multidisciplinary, what excites you and worries you about where storytelling is headed? You kind of alluded to some of that with the algorithms pushing people into these
yeah,
increasingly
yeah,
dark echo chambers and
yeah.
corners.
It's funny. I was listening to a podcast recently, and they had an indie filmmaker who makes indie kind of romantic comedy kind of things, and he is purposely eschewed working for major studios. And he said, "There's the culture has evolved, and this is partly due to the fact that the need to sell international summer blockbuster, blah blah blah. This great master story has evolved, and it's toxic, and it works. It's the great master story that we developed that's toxic is there are really really bad people out there, and but there are really good people too. And the really good people need to lift a lot of weights, and then they need to get big machine guns and need to go and kill all the really bad people. So this is like Marvel, it's John Wick, it's all of these kind of things. Um, the level of violence in movies. I don't know if you ever saw a John Wick film, but
Oh, yeah.
it's like it's terrifying. It's we become so desensitized to it. Whereas great the stories I think that are healthier to tell are stories where people like in these independent rom-com films, people where the people find each other, where they go through the difficult path of just like making themselves vulnerable enough to fall in love, or films where people go through an emotional journey, and then at the end of the journey, they know something about themselves that makes them emotionally healthier. That sounds a little intellectual, but that's good dramatic films like Ordinary People, a film like
Hmm.
that,
Sure.
are about that subject. And anyway, so yes, I am I
Sounds like
am
the
I
theme of
am
the next
worried.
MCU franchise for sure.
Yeah, I am worried, but there are great people and great filmmakers, and they want to make good films. And the people who are doing themed entertainment projects like the Osaka Pavilion is a good example of
Hmm.
that.
Yeah.
It's like you walk through there, the message of the Osaka Pavilion is we're glad you came here and we want to be your friend. And America is a place where you can make yourself, smarter, better. You can work on projects that will change the world. You can do amazing things like going to the moon. And we just want you to know that our doors are open and we're ready. We're ready for you. That's an example of an empowering piece of
Hmm.
storytelling.
Absolutely. Okay, rounding towards the end here. What are some common pitfalls or mistakes that you see young professionals falling victim to that could be avoided? How
Oh
can we
boy.
avoid that collective stupid tax?
Well, I see a lot of things like when I see attractions and things like that, where and this falls also advertising does this too, where the people who are telling the story make the mistake of thinking that people are interested in their product, and now what you have to do is just tell them about it. And that's not true. The people are interested in their own lives, and they are interested in connecting with other people. And if other people are interested in that product and they discover that the people who are interested in that product have a tribe and they can be part of that tribe and they can feel connected because of it, that's how you make a great brand home. But I was, as I said, I spent 8 years writing comedy radio commercials, and the thing you learn in advertising is that nobody cares about your product. Nobody. And so you have to figure out a way to tell a story people like and insert your product in there. Like, if you build a brand home and people go and have a series of wonderful experiences where they feel love and affection for other people, and it happens to be centered around that product because of their mutual love for it, then you got something. Dodger Stadium is the brand home of the LA Dodgers. People go there to share their love for the Dodgers and mostly to hang out with other people who love the Dodgers. And the success is try to do as many things as possible to let them share that love by buying a jersey for their friends or, whatever it is. So that's a good mistake. That took me a while to figure that one out.
Well, Rich, you represent a particular discipline coming from a show writing background. Obviously, we get the opportunity in our industry to work with lots of different disciplines that are part of an orchestra. Someone was specifically asking for advice on creating a great partnership with kind of more of the design-oriented disciplines, or a designer and a writer. What's the magic to that pairing or that relationship? Have you seen where there's either a tension of who leads or what's the secret?
Well, I think a great partnership like that is a dance. It's the disciplines sort of fall away, and then it's about trying to find the heart and soul of the story. It's if they can do that, the work then naturally falls into the buckets it needs to be successful. But it's mainly it's like when you work in a project with a designer and a writer together, you have to work together and hang out together till the light bulb goes on and says, "Oh, I see. Yes, that's exactly." Then you know how to tell the story, and then it becomes easy. But there you can't cut to it being easy. You have to really figure out what it is.
Love it.
Look at great design things and then say, why does this work? What happened? What was the process that got them here? Because, if you look at Disneyland, what makes that place so amazingly special? And it's Walt at every, you walk in there and you're the star of the show everywhere you turn. That's what happened to me when I was 5 years old. And, it changed my life. It's the source of everything that's come after that.
That's a lot of goodness. That's awesome.
Oh, thank you. It's been, tell you what, it's the best. I just want one last note here. I love people who work in the themed entertainment business. And the reason is very specific. The reason is that there's no glory in themed entertainment, unlike movies and TV.
Yeah, no credits.
So what you get is a bunch of people who are really passionate about the work who don't care about getting credit. This is an amazing group of people in show business, and you get to be with those people, and it's so delightful.
On that note, we are so grateful to get to be with you. Some of the notes that are coming in as far as just the pure gratitude for the master class, for the brain damage that you've incurred over the years that you've imparted to us.
All the landmines I've stepped on. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Some great nuggets. We are so
great.
thankful to you and your fellow masters, Rich. Thanks for taking the time. Thanks for everyone else for joining in.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
This is, I can't tell you how happy I am that you took the time to give me this amazing platform and showcase. I'm really grateful. Thank you so much.
Well, we're honored. Thanks again, Rich, and to everyone else that joined.